And apparently, literally everything is right-wing. If you don't want to live in a tent under the Bay Bridge, self-vaccinating, surrounded by human feces, then you are right-wing. What is up? My name is Eric. This channel is called Report and Opine. I am back. This, of course, is the epicenter for all of your current and captivating coastal elite chaos. So please hit that subscribe button, like the video, ring the notification bell, leave a comment or two, share this with a friend. Let's go. All right, first things first, in the lightning round, cell phone outage hits AT&T customers nationwide. Verizon and T-Mobile users also affected, and I'm sure there is nothing to see here. Only a right-wing conspiracy weirdo might say something like the cell phone will be implanted in your palm soon enough, and somebody far, far away will be able to turn it on and off as they please, depending on how well you comply. Then Wendy Williams was diagnosed with some sort of weird dementia, and I think she was kind of funny. I think she spoke some truth. I am not an expert on her output, but it is strange how this diagnosis seems to be more important than Bo Jiden, the leader of the free world, taking a cognitive test, which is obviously proof that he is no longer in charge, if he ever was. And also, what happened to that coke they found in the White House? I'm sure we'll find out soon enough. And President Biden, of course, returns to California for fundraising events and student debt speech, and I guess that's kind of true. He spoke for 15 minutes about buying more votes via loan forgiveness. The rest of the time, I think he was just having private dinners that cost a bare minimum of $3,000, presumably to talk to wealthy donors who are in on the scam. They're complete criminals, and they're trying to figure out how the shadow cabal campaign can fortify the election this year, and I'm sure it has nothing to do with the fact that the CDC is now claiming that a stomach virus is spreading across the Northeast. So we have disease X, we have long Rona, we have this new stomach virus. Of course, we also have the sun monster. They're all coming to get you, and I think, fortunately, it's only attacking libtards, and we know that if you haven't died or suffered or had somebody who died or suffered, then you are probably a right-winger. And Keith Lee, who notoriously left the Bay Area, is going to make his way to Phoenix, and even with their, questionably installed governor, Cartel Katie, I'm guessing that he's not going to flee the scene like he did in the Bay Area. I mean, he even went to the Bronx and had delicious tacos. Think about that. The Bronx is better than the Bay Area. Okay, here we are in New York City from The Daily Show and their new weirdo comedy puppet. It says, sneakerheads roast Trump kicks. And I think they were trying to, get some people to say how terrible and awful Donald Trump is. And yeah, some people will say the shoes are really ugly, but I don't think this went quite as bad as they were hoping for, or maybe good in their mind.
World, I'm Josh Johnson, and Donald Trump just released his new Never Surrender high tops. There's only 1,000 being released and $400 a pop. They will probably not put a dent in the judgment against him.
There you go. Right, so right off the bat, oh, well, he owes us so much money, that's why he's making these shoes, completely ignoring the fact that that same establishment wants the money. There's no victim in the crime. They're just literally trying to take his money and presumably give it to illegals.
I hit the streets today to talk to some real sneakerheads to see if these are cop or drop.
They know I'm the bomb.
Now, what do you think of these sneakers?
It's very patriotic. I think that there's no rules in fashion. You can wear whatever you want, but me personally, I would not wear it.
Would you cop these? Like,
No.
You wouldn't?
Nope, hard pass.
It looks very 2009 dated.
They look like they don't bend.
What are your thoughts on this shoe?
Trying to be chic.
Okay.
And there's the smug, there's no joke, there's no punchline. It's just a laugh track to make sure you know that Orange Man bad, and it's funny that look, you don't have to like the shoe. Obviously, it's really pretty ugly, but it doesn't matter. The point here is they vilified the man who bought the signed pair. He was, how dare he? And then he actually made a pretty epic response video, but that's a different story. I mean, it's crazy how they are trying to get you to ignore any and all reality and just know that no matter what happens, this is bad. We're not going to tell you why. We're just going to laugh. It's a laugh track, right? I mean,
I'm triggered.
But also very nationalistic.
Got you. Now, would you?
so yeah, it's patriotic, and the other kid says, well, you know, they're all right, no rules in fashion, but I wouldn't wear them. And I think what they were hoping for is, oh, Orange Man bad, how dare he? This is crazy.
Wear the shoe?
No.
Okay, so you think if you wore these to school, you might get like roasted up?
Definitely.
Yeah, because like what grade are you in?
7th.
You're in 7th grade?
Yeah.
How tall are you?
6'1". I play basketball.
You should. Do you think there's a sort of like Mike situation where as soon as you put them on, you get indicted?
Probably. If not indicted by the judicial system, it'd be indicted by society.
Do you think they go up even?
Yeah, so, I mean, it goes on like this. It's all pretty middle of the road. Oh, and the joke there. Oh, well, if you put these on, do you get indicted immediately? Which I guess is good because all of the indictments are a complete joke. And speaking of indictments, this is Tish James speaking to ABC News. Now, quite clearly, obviously, the interviewer is a total hack, but she does manage to be worse than him, and she speaks in this tone because she's so brave and stoic. She thinks she's on a Netflix show. She thinks it's an episode of Empire. She thinks this is an episode of Power or something.
Endured your fair share of criticism from the former president.
Okay, so yeah, you're trying to take down the president in a literally victimless crime, and then he says, "Well, you've been the target of the former president, right? I mean, how dare he? Why didn't he just do exactly as you said?" It doesn't make any sense.
Do you have any concerns should he be elected again about any kind of repercussions?
I cannot be paralyzed by fear, and I cannot allow anyone to bully me into silence, and I cannot allow anyone to have a chilling effect on the work that I do in this.
Okay, well, it could not be any more obvious. I don't know how to prove to somebody at this point that these people are complete con artists. I cannot live in fear. I cannot be bullied into silence when obviously that's literally what they're doing. And I guess in the grand scheme, it's a pretty good play so they can throw these things out when they're doing that exact thing. And when somebody says, well, you're doing that, they say, no, you're just, you have nothing else. You're just saying that because I already said that. So pretty clever, I guess.
This office does each and every day. I put my head down and I go to work. And I do not respond and will not kowtow to bullies.
Oh, okay, so Trump is the bully. Meanwhile, the entirety of New York City has become a weirdo asylum. I mean, the Row Hotel is a baby mill. They're stabbing. They're attacking cops. I mean, we all saw this. We all see this happening. And she's like, well, Trump is the bully. And if he cannot pay, I will seize his assets. How about just no? How about you just ignore this woman? Who's going to enforce this? They don't like the cops. So, I mean, who's going to enforce all of her insane things? Who put this woman in? How is this happening?
This office has a responsibility and a duty to all the residents of the great state of New York. And we do it without fear, without favor, and we do it every day admirably. And
yes, we do it admirably. What, lady, who are you selling this to? And then you have Governor Kathy Hochul going out there and saying, oh no, regular business owners don't have to worry about this. I mean, we prosecuted this man for something that happens the world over hundreds of times a day. But you don't have to worry about it because you're not Donald Trump, which obviously lets us know that they're clearly just targeting him. And she ran on that. She was public about it. That's why she got elected. So she did it. And I guess that's a win for her. But it's so clearly, plainly, blatantly obvious between her. I mean, it's only a matter of time before she ends up in some sort of weirdo, fraud, scam, scheme, illegal thing that she's into, sort of like Big Fat Fanny Pack Willis. And of course, Tiffany Henyard.
Honorably.
He called you a lot of things. One of the most prominent is racist. How does that sit with you amid all the other things, I guess, that you've been called?
Mr. Trump appeals to the worst in our society.
Mr. Trump appeals to the worst in our society. Oh, yeah. All the sneakerheads and all the video game guys. I mean, just the worst. And look, I'm not going to sit here and pretend that the sneakerheads and the gamers are the best people on the planet, but you've alienated quite everybody to the point where you are sending out a man dressed as a woman in an army outfit to tell you the air is racist, but Trump appeals to the worst in our society. These people are just despicable.
And it's unfortunate. It's nothing more than a distraction, an effort to divide us as a nation. And it's really critically important that individuals understand that we are all connected by our humanity. And at the end of the day, we've got to stand up and be courageous and stand up to recognize, stand up to those who believe that the law does not apply to them and that there's two sets of rules.
Yes, there's quite clearly two sets of rules. What is this lady talking about? Who is this for? I mean, the desperation is just through the roof. And why not? You have to throw these Hail Marys. You have to be so extreme because you can't do it tepidly at this point. Your heels are far too dug in. And this woman now wants us to believe that nobody is above the law except for Bill de Blasio's wife and Eric Adams, who hired his brother. That's all okay. Right? I mean, the list goes on and on and on, but Donald Trump is not above the law. Meanwhile, Nancy Pelosi, remember that? She was prancing around a hairdresser while telling everybody to stay home. Gavin Newsom was out at the French Laundry while doing the same exact thing. But nobody is above the law. There's not two sets of standards. What are you talking about? We all see it, and that's why they're being so extreme about it. Because there is no middle ground, right? We saw just the other day the college students, blasting Kristen Hawkins and Isabel. I think I said Isabella, but her name's Isabel Brown. But they agree with the protesters, and it doesn't matter. And that, look, I'm getting off track here, but clearly the point is this woman is projecting so hard because there's nothing left. We just have to roll with it.
One for working people, and one for the rich and the powerful. And my answer to that is that no one is above the law.
Classic. Okay, she got the talking point. She got the memo. No one is above the law. And she's talking like she is in an episode of Empire, an episode of Power, but you are not. This is real life. And I hope that this woman goes down in flames. Then on the opposite end of that spectrum, I suppose we've got this lady from Arizona, and shout out Surprise. I want to give a big shout out to Surprise because I used to live there for a couple of years, but she is saying, no, we're not sending these criminal illegals back to New York because we know you're just going to let them go and they're going to be free to roam wherever it is they want. Now, quite clearly, they should just be sent back to El Salvador, Guatemala, or Nicaragua, or what was it, Honduras, or where a lot of them, Venezuela. It doesn't matter. Get them out of here. Definitely don't send them back to New York. What they should be doing is making big rocks into little rocks.
This is not aimed at the New York Police Department at all. I know they did a hard job and they did a good job, but we will not be agreeing to extradition. I've instructed my extradition attorneys not to agree to that. We're going to keep him here. These are mandatory prison sentences. And having observed the treatment of violent criminals in the New York area by the Manhattan DA there, Alvin Bragg, I think it's safer to keep him here and keep him in custody so that he cannot be out doing this to an individual.
Good. So, shout out Surprise. I mean, this woman still thinks it's 1989, but that's okay. You should put these criminals in prison, and when they're done with their prison sentence, send them back home. And here is a clip of the Oakland mayor trying to have a press conference to announce a $3.5 million grant to hire more safety ambassadors. So they are doing quite literally anything to tell you that there's not going to be any more cops, which I think is the wrong choice. I think even people in Oakland want more cops. Well, there's a certain contingent that does not. But here we have the press conference breaking out into absolute chaos. Shout out Seneca Scott. I do have an interview with him, which is still on the way, coming soon. But we'll also see that we're at the point where they're ready, willing, and able to call anybody who disagrees with them right wing. I mean, just the other day, there was the post from Reddit that said, talking about crime in Oakland is right wing. It's like, okay. I mean, they're already operating in this such brainwashed manner that, first of all, talking about crime is not inherently right wing. Maybe conservatives tend to be a little bit more law and order. But that aside, why is it that these people are so, I mean, just the idea, just saying right wing is a bad thing to them. They haven't even come to the realization that it's quite literally two wings of the same bird. So, yes, fine. Even if you want to use the idea that talking about crime is right wing, what is so scary about being called right wing? Why is that so scary? It's quite clearly the reason why California looks the way it does is because a Republican hasn't touched it in 20 years since the governor. And he, of course, it wasn't really a conservative. He was talking about screw your freedom all the way back during Rona. But that's a completely different point. Here we have big, scary right-wingers protesting Shang Tao.
A comprehensive and community safety strategy.
And as I understand it, that is one of Mayor Shang Tao's bodyguards in the gray sweatshirt there who just breaks out into the chant of stop provoking, because there's never any points to be made. It's only to shout somebody down and keep repeating the same thing over and over again. Oh, our body, our choice, or from the river to the sea. They love chanting because they can't make any points.
Provoking. Stop provoking, please. Please, sir. Stop provoking, sir. Please. Please, sir. Stop provoking. Just leave us alone. Just leave us alone. I'm being attacked. Leave us alone. I'm being attacked. I'm not attacking my hands. I'm being attacked. Please stop provoking. 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 Please stop provoking.
I mean, that's just how deep the brainwashing runs, is that I believe, as a recording of this video, that Shang Tao's bodyguards literally break out into a chant of please stop provoking. Because as we know, it is very far right wing to stand up against clear corruption, garbage, trash everywhere, crime through the roof. If you notice that, especially if you talk about it, you are, in fact, a right winger. If you needed proof, which I'm sure you didn't, but I'm here to provide it anyways, from SFist, which I used to intern for, a different story. Supporters of Oakland Mayor Shang Tao push back on recall campaigners, comparing them to right-wingers. So I guess they're now at the point where they're not actually saying these people are right-wing, because Seneca, who I know personally, calls himself a progressive, a real progressive, not a completely corrupt communist regressive, but they're not calling them right-wingers, they're comparing them to right-wingers. So now, the term right-wing is being used as a slur, and I guess, fine, I use the term left-wing as a slur all the time, but to compare them to right-wingers. So the people that don't want Shang Tao to continue destroying the city of Oakland, and the numbers back it up too, right? You can go through hundreds of tweets, and people are saying, well, why didn't they want to get rid of the last mayor? Well, because there's increases in crime, break-ins, robberies, all that stuff, 20, 30, 40%. It's absolutely through the roof. So that's why. But if you are making a point of that, and you maybe take a stand and you try to get rid of her, then you will be compared to a right-winger. And that's how deep the brain rot is in California, that the idea of being compared to a right-winger is just so scary. That's why you got that baseball guy, I forget his name, but he's running for Senate in California. He claims to be a Republican, but then he says, oh no, like abortion's not that bad, and climate change is killing us, because somehow I'm dealing with this right now, but I don't think everybody's buying into this. But in California, for some reason, they're still beat into submission. They're still bludgeoned over the head, and they know that if you take a stand against any of this stuff, somebody will push back on you. Ask the Asian guy out in San Francisco who said, maybe Mayor London Breed should do something about this, and she sicked the NAACP on him. And here is San Francisco Mayor London Breed speaking with KTVU News, and she's going to talk about how she wants to turn San Francisco into a higher surveillance police state, which makes perfect sense. It is the next logical step. She's also going to mention Proposition 47 and how, they need to change it a little bit, but she knows she can't get too far off the plot, otherwise somebody might call her a right-winger.
All right, so first, Mayor, you want residents to vote yes on Prop E, which would authorize the SFPD to use drones and install surveillance cameras without commission or board approval, including those with facial recognition technology. Tell us why.
Well, because San Francisco has had a lot of challenges, and in fact, talking to many frontline officers who are out on the streets every single day, one of the biggest challenges they have is some of the confusions around some of the policies that are passed by the police commission, as well as a strong...
Some of the policies passed by the police commission has nothing to do with you. They're confused about the rules that they put into place. Okay, London.
Desire to want to do their jobs. In the middle of the night when there are break-ins, our officers, when they arrive at the scene, they should be able to pursue suspects. But under current policy, they can only do so if it's a violent felony. And in addition to that, when you think about technology, this is a great opportunity. For example, you called 911, and I just heard a story on KTVU today about a city using drones to get eyes and ears on a particular situation and to be able to analyze that situation.
Yeah, I mean, we hate human cops. We can't stand them. They're all racist, so we're going to turn all of the cops into robots and drones. That's going to work for us.
As first responders are on their way to know who's appropriate to send, as well as to deal with some of the open-air drug dealing and other issues. We've seen incredible preliminary results with using technology on the streets of the Tenderloin in particular.
She's just dragging on and on here. She looks like a claymation figure. What is wrong with this woman?
We've made arrests around suspected drug dealers, as well as 2 suspected homicide cases. We know that it takes a lot of work and a lot of technology and opportunities to be.
What about Mohammed Nuru and your ethics violation fine? How is this woman still in office? How are any of these people still? I mean, it's decades of brainwashing. That's how.
Able to deal with various crime in San Francisco, and in fact, we're seeing results where we are experiencing some of the lowest numbers around both violent crimes and crimes in general in San Francisco that we've seen in over 10 years, not including the year where we shut down during a global pandemic.
So, Mayor, last week we spoke to...
So we've been doing good. We're doing better than we have in the last 10 years, except for that 1 year in 2020 when we shut everything down and it turned absolutely into the purge.
Matt Cagle with the ACLU of Northern California, he expressed concern about Prop E. I want to play what he said and then have you respond to the other side.
Okay, and here's where it gets really good. He's going to play a clip from a man at the ACLU who doesn't like this idea. Now, I don't like any idea that London Breed puts forth, so he's probably right, but not right for the reasons he thinks he's right. And when you've got the completely corrupt mayor of San Francisco at odds with the completely corrupt establishment cog in the machine, ACLU, it is a race to the bottom and another reason why this will never get better.
Listen.
Right now, San Francisco has a really great process that involves the community and our elected leaders. When a department like the police wants to get a surveillance system like a drone, they go to the public and they say, here's what we're going to do with it. Here's how we're going to make you safer. And here's the safety policies that are going to be in place to make sure that people aren't hurt. This would shred those safeguards and that oversight, and it would allow the police to secretly, on their own, decide.
Yeah, the police are always the problem. This is from the ACLU. Remember, there was a ACLU lawyer in Oakland who had her house sprayed with stray bullets, but she is still a progressive. And now you have this guy saying, no, London Breed can't do that because this is going to, affect the general public. But they, oh man.
Decide how and when they're going to use surveillance systems.
Mayor, how do you respond to that, what you just heard Matt Cagle say?
Well, my response is exactly what I say the technology is going to be used for.
It's more word salad. Yeah, he's wrong. Sure, he's wrong. The ACLU is terrible. London Breed is terrible. You guys are both wrong in this case. But she's gonna spew out another couple minutes of word salad to let you know that, well, what I already said is true, because they can't ever articulate any point. They could just ramble on for 10 minutes at a time about how, progressive values and, cops are the problem and drones and climate change. It's all nonsense. Let's move ahead a little bit here. So we already know that she wants to turn the city into a high surveillance police state, which is their last resort. They hate cops. Regular human cops are all completely racist. Then the ACLU steps in to say, well, no, you can't do that. You got to just let everybody bleed out on the street. So it's a complete mess. Now they talk about Proposition 47, which has been quite a hot topic for some years now because it basically allows people to steal whatever it is they want. Anything under $950 will get a slap on the wrist if we're lucky. But and there's sort of tiers to it. So as long as you steal $950 or less several times, it doesn't mean anything. It's not cumulative. But I digress. Now she's going to say that we need to change it a little bit, but don't worry. I'm still a progressive. We're still gonna, we're still gonna stand by the values of San Francisco, which I guess have all but become needles and poop and tents.
Now to Proposition 47, which you are supporting along with Mayor Matt Mahan after you want to make these amendments to Prop 47, which would allow prosecutors to aggregate or add up charges so that a third misdemeanor could become a felony and a fourth would become prison time. Tell us your stance on this, on the changes that you want to see here.
Well, I want to be clear that San Francisco has not abandoned our values around compassion, around...
Okay, and there you go. Well, I want to be clear. That is classic. That is a staple of all political, slithery, snake-like reptilian people. She wants to be clear that, San Francisco, we're still going to cater to criminals, but maybe we want to try to stop it a little bit by putting somebody away after the 5th time they rob something.
Criminal justice reforms. In fact, I've been a leader around criminal justice reforms. We banned the box here in San Francisco. I have people who have been formerly incarcerated who work for me directly.
Yeah, okay, good. She's hiring criminals. She's not going to make any changes. In fact, the only changes that she will make will be for the worst, I can almost guarantee. And just for good measure, because I know you wanted proof, I know you needed proof, San Francisco police biased traffic stops banned by Watchdog. And I can only assume that this Watchdog is part of the National Lawyers Guild or some federal monitor. But so they're pretending that they're going to stop crime and we're going to amend Proposition 47 and put drones and cameras everywhere. But we're not going to stop anybody because that might be racist. These people are absolutely losing it. From Scott Wiener, the creepiest man in all of American politics. He posted to his Instagram, I guess a screenshot from an article. Oklahoma Republicans passed a bathroom bill. Now a transformer child is dead. So this is it. This is the peak. If you do not do everything they say, then somebody is going to get hurt and or die. I mean, we see it over and over again. Whether it's the weather, whether it's Rona, whether it's trying to cut your junk off, if you do not obey blindly, somebody could die. He says, next, Benedict, a non-binary kid, is dead after being bullied and attacked in a school restroom. That's probably not what happened, but whatever, Scott. It goes on. This horrific tragedy happened because right-wing extremists have been targeting and demonizing transformers. Bro, right-wing extremists? I mean, look, I guess this is the theme of the day, but you can't just call every single thing you don't like right-wing. And to say that they're extreme, I'm having a hard time here actually wrapping my head around the idea that the people who want to cut the junk off kids, send the dicks and tits to China.
Yeah, I'm not gonna get my dick cut off and sold to China, spend the rest of my life on a treadmill like this guy. What?
Are calling the people who don't want to do that extremists. And because these people are hell-bent on destruction, making sure people flee California and squeezing out the entirety of the middle class, another toll increase proposed for the Golden Gate Bridge, as if it wasn't enough. So you're going to increase the tolls, so people have to pay more if they want to drive on the road. They hate cars. We already know that. London Breed talks about bike lanes. It's a complete mess. I mean, food prices are through the roof. Now, you have CNN, trying to convince us that, well, it's not that bad, and it was like this once in 1947 or whatever. Then in San Francisco, they want to hike another tax specific to the police, so 911 doesn't work. Cars are constantly getting broken into. The police are not going to help anybody unless they pay more in taxes. And then you have Barbara Lee, who is trying to convince you that a $50 minimum wage makes sense. So if this is not clear, I mean, the dots are so close they're practically touching, but people refuse to connect them, and now they just want to hike on another fee. And I wasn't planning on this, but you can see here on the side, San Francisco's Millennium Tower now may be the sinking. So it's still sinking. For years, that billion-dollar development had been sinking because some contractors, cut corners or whatever it is, and they were probably in bed with Mohammed Nuru or that other weirdo guy down in Los Angeles who was on the city council, but he's now in jail. And that development got covered in graffiti. But I digress. I'm getting triggered. That's a completely different story. My point here is, to add insult to injury, they want to hike the toll on the Golden Gate Bridge once again. Look, this is just a mess. Okay, so cell phones are going out. Nothing to see there. Wendy Williams, who I don't even believe is 60 years old just yet, is diagnosed with some sort of dementia, and that's more important than Bo Jiden, who says, everything's all right, Jack. And then you got, Biden himself going to California and having dinner with wealthy donors who, of course, are likely in on the scam, because there would be no reason for a regular person to pay $3,000 to sit down and have dinner with Joe Biden. I mean, it likely costs $3,000 to have dinner in California at this point anyways. I mean, it's crazy. And of course, speaking of dinner, Keith Lee, who made national, if not worldwide news by calling out California in a very nice way, I might add, is headed to Phoenix, and I'm actually genuinely curious to see where he goes. He should go to the taco spot, which I've never been, but I follow them on Instagram and they're hilarious. And apparently, literally everything is right-wing. If you don't want to live in a tent under the Bay Bridge, self-vaccinating, surrounded by human feces, then you are right-wing. All that aside, here's a funny clip. Now, this is not from the taco spot. It's from a restaurant called Tacos El Compita in Los Angeles, and I do look forward to eventually trying both of them, even if I can't properly pronounce it. But this is how you run a business, or I don't know if their business is being run properly, but this is how you properly run social media. And there are some people in the comments that got their feelings hurt, but it doesn't matter. As of this recording, they have yet to apologize. They certainly haven't removed the post. And for a fairly small account, this video has millions of views, and I think it's pretty funny.
I love the Mexican people, especially the big girls, las gorditas. They are so tasty. Ay, que rico. They call me el viejo asqueroso, which is Spanish for the handsome orange man. In fact, the next big, beautiful one I see, I'll be grabbing her by the taco.